And welcome back. We got from the third, we want to welcome Craig Wayne to our program. Thanks for joining us today, Craig.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to get into some stuff here, but tell me a little bit about you as a board member. You've served twice before, but there was a little bit of a gap in between.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay. What made you want to serve the first time and then come back after taking a little break for the second time?
Well, I had been a resident here for a few years. Now it's about 7. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I had friends that I talked to about making some changes on the board, the way the board does things. Mm-hmm. And that brought me to join the board along with some other people. And that was the first time.
Was the first time through?
First time through.
And did you get the changes you wanted? Did you say, okay, my work here is done? You stepped away?
No, I stepped away because my wife was ill.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So she needed me.
Okay. And then you felt that call back. They kind of needed you again, so you're back in service?
Right. So the last October then, when the board was going to change, they had several openings on the board. Mm-hmm. Me and my friend, Robert Muchnick, decided, yeah, the board needed us again.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, there are 4 open seats, and the election's coming up in October. What do we know about that? How is their application process is underway?
Exactly. So if you enjoy the community and think maybe you should be giving back, then this is your opportunity. Mm-hmm. So in October, at our annual meeting, there are going to be 4 open seats. Mm-hmm. Now, by 4 open seats, what that means is the tenure on the people who are on the board only lasts 3 years. So their term is up. That does not mean that they can't run it again, mm-hmm. because they can, and we hope some of them do. Or we hope all of them do, actually. We have a very cohesive board right now. Mm-hmm. Now, the objective of the board is obviously instrumental in what goes on in the village. So if you would write this down for me, write down October 3rd.
October 3rd is the date for people to know. Got it right there.
Right.
So that's going to be the big day.
That's going to be the big day as far as people joining the board. Mm-hmm. So you need to put in an application to join the board. And the board has many features that are important to all of us. Some of the committees are maintenance and construction, finance, landscaping, architectural, water, disaster, transportation. Mm-hmm. So you see that we have a lot of boards, right. And I didn't even mention them all.
And all board members serve on multiple committees usually, right?
Exactly, mm-hmm. Right.
So if you have an area of expertise, let's say you were an engineer or you were a management person or you did insurance or something like that, you can find a place in the committee that works for your skills.
That's true. You know, my background is in insurance and investments. Mm-hmm. So that would be my area of expertise, mm-hmm. to bring to the board. Mm-hmm.
So you're probably on the accounting side, the budget side, and then obviously looking for insurance. That we'll talk about that in a second. But looking for good insurance deals for the community, for HOAs and all those kind of fees, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So if you think that you are going to want to be on the board, and we hope many of you do decide that, we'd like you to put in an application. The voting will be in October at our annual meeting. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, you need to file an application by, what was that date again?
July 3rd.
That's right, July 3rd. That's the important date. So you need to put in your application by that date. Mm-hmm. So if you come into the HOA meetings, you go to the concierge desk, and they will give you an application. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it may seem, the October election may seem far off right now. We're just getting to the start of summer here, but July 3rd is the time for you to be able to apply and be able to be an eligible candidate for the board elections, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Now, speaking of being an eligible candidate, you have to be an owner, mm-hmm. and you have to have lived here 1 year or more.
Okay. Okay, so there's a few things you have to make otherwise. Now, do you have to have served on some committees and that kind of thing? Do you have to have experience, or can you just come in saying, I'm ready to serve, here we go?
Yes, you don't need experience. You can just come in and say, I'm ready to serve, just like you said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, there you go. And are directors term limited at all, or can people just run and run and run? How does that work?
Yeah, people can run more than one time. Mm-hmm. So the typical amount of time that they are on is 3 years. Some people are on for shorter periods of time because we have openings, because people have gone someplace else, like to GRF. So that at that point, then we have a shorter period of time. So the people come on and they say, okay, I'd like to be on this board, I'd like to be on this board, I'd like to be on this board, and then the president then appoints the people to the different boards.
Okay, then you're in. Then you're serving, and you're filling out someone else's term, and then you can have a term of your own if you so choose to. And I imagine the folks that are interested in filing, it will be that July 3rd deadline's coming up, so it's time to get that paperwork in and make sure that happens for folks.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the things you guys are dealing with as a board right now, and that's one of them is the limit on renters.
Right. We have found that, or security has found, that they have more calls for more problems with our renter population than if we're owner and resident and resident at the same time. So we had a cap of 30%, and the state came back and said, we have a new law, and you have to have a 25% opportunity. So in other words, if we have 30%, which we almost do, we could lower that to 25%. So that's what we're going to do. We will do that by a process of attrition.
Right. So anybody renting now is fine, but as those renters go away, there won't be allowed to bring in new renters. Is that what we're saying here?
The people who own those units will be able to bring in new renters.
Okay.
But the people who come from the outside and buy now are not going to be able to bring in renters.
Okay.
So they need to know that.
So that's one of the caveats to buying here. If someone's of outside buyers thinking, oh, I'd like to buy in here and then rent out, that's kind of off the table for a little while until they get back down at least below a 25% threshold.
Right. Exactly right.
And how would that work in terms of, I don't know if you've worked this out, but how would that work in terms of if I bought and can I get on a wait list that, hey, when it gets to 25, I'd like to do that. Is that going to be or is it going to be a kind of a free for all?
No, you're right. There would be a wait list. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Works for me. Another thing we want to talk about is the insurance update. You're kind of joining up with the folks over at United to kind of pool resources and get a better rate for the residents.
Exactly. So United and we have been buying our insurance separately. This is the property insurance, which is a big expense.
Huge deal.
Yes. So by United and Third Mutual joining together, we have greater buying power. And with greater buying power, that means we have an opportunity to lower the insurance premiums. Lowering the insurance premiums mean that we don't need as much money for that, so we can spend the money in someplace else, like in maintenance and construction.
Now, has that happened, or are you guys getting bids right now, and what are you seeing in terms of this process?
We're getting bids right now.
Okay.
Yes, and it's close to being finalized, but not quite.
And you guys have seen, and from the bids you've seen so far, you believe there's going to be a genuine reduction for the homeowners?
Substantial.
Fantastic.
A substantial reduction, yes. Now, like I said, that money doesn't mean it's coming back to the residents, because it would be used in other areas, like landscaping.
So they'll at least be able to fund other things that are maybe a little bit underfunded or in need of funds at least. And then, of course, there's the reserves as well for any kind of emergencies.
Right.
Okay, well, there we go. Let's talk a little bit about one of the things that we talked about with some other mutuals as well, for other boards, is the replacement of grass in some areas around it, because of a new state law that says if it's kind of unused turf area, it shouldn't be grass. It have to be removed for drought tolerant, things like that.
Exactly right. So the state law says that we need to remove the grass and put in other plants that don't need as much water. So that's what they're doing to conserve water. Now, we're talking about millions of dollars here to do this.
Right.
If you look around and see how much grass we have, and most of it's going to have to be replaced with something that's drought tolerant, then you can understand why this would be so expensive.
Now, are there some strategies and areas that you'd like to say, like, hey, we'd like to have this as is? What can be done in those areas? Can you put benches here? Now we're using this as a picnic area, or I mean, are there things you can do in terms of workarounds to make an unused area usable and save that cost, or is it you guys are just kind of going to go across the board and make the replacements?
I can't give you an answer to that, and that's because the state law that's coming down gives us 3 years to replace the turf, and our landscaping department is going to see if they can abide by the state law, and they'll go through and they'll decide where they want to replace this grass.
So they'll designate what is and isn't going to fall under the guise of this law and these rules?
Exactly.
There you go. Well, in terms of what you do on the board, what are some of the things that you feel like you've accomplished and been able to get done for candidates that are coming in saying, okay, what can I do? What kind of things did you do when you first came on the board and said, here's the things we need to do, here are things that need to change, and how did you affect them?
Well, the first thing I did was keep my mouth shut and just listen and learn. So we have 3 people on the board who have doctorate degrees. So you can see we've got areas in different, people in different areas. There are 3 different areas that they have doctorate degrees. And then there are people just like me who don't have anything as special as that.
And did you bring your, one of the things I think a lot of board members think they can go is they're going to come in there and make a change by a snap of the finger, right? And do either kind of learn the hard way that, hey, it's a consensus kind of thing, and we have to come into agreement that's something that works for all members.
Oh, exactly. So when something comes up for example, the renters, when we propose that the reduction from 30% to 25% take place, then the board of directors votes on that, and majority wins. The majority right now seems to be pretty conducive to everything we've been trying to do.
There you go. And in terms of what are some of the things that you're most proud of in terms of what you've been able to accomplish? What are things you can look back and say, you know, this got done, and I'm glad I was part of that?
Oh, part of that. Yeah. So since I'm on the finance committee, obviously one of the important things is to get a reduction in our homeowner insurance. That's not going to happen, folks. We would just be really happy if it only went up like 4%. If it goes up 4% per year, that's pretty good for us.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, well, some accomplishments are going on, and folks, July 3rd, that's the deadline we need to worry about. That's the one for applications to become a board member over at 3rd. Thank you very much, Craig Wayne, for joining us today.
Okay, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back. Bree's going to be talking to folks from Ting about our new services here in the community. Stay with us.